I survived talk radio, Hollywood, the music business, and media politics. And the message that saved my career had nothing to do with talent. Picture up. Well, you new to this channel. Hi, I'm Jeff Adams. Welcome to Creative on the Mend. I'm a creative starting over in my 50s. So, I've always been a creative. And currently, I'm right now at a client studio in their lobby, Blue Jay Recording Studios in beautiful Mount Dora, Florida. But I was thinking, I've survived a lot and I'm still here after all these years of creating content and being immersed in content, writing music, recording music, being an artist, having a music label, directing, filming, writing scripts, showrunner, executive producer, done it all, right? But the one thing I've known is that you don't burn bridges. Especially like in talk radio, the years I was in it, there was a lot of competition. People would badmouth each other. One minute they're patting each other on the back, and behind closed doors they're saying, that guy, I can't stand that guy, blah, 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 blah. It's typical, right? And I've had my moments, and I got into that world, and I've done my share, but I've learned a lot. And the world's too small, and people that you would never ever think that you would have any kind of conversation with or have anything in common with, that you thought were enemies back in the day when you were young and naive and full of this oof that you've got to conquer the world, that you never would think that you might be sitting in a room with someone that was a competitor, that fueled you, that was an enemy. The world's too small. And the one thing I know about this world is never ever burn those bridges. You just can't at the end of the day. Be wise, because the world's too small, especially in this industry. Especially if like you're in a city, because I'm not in Hollywood, I'm not in Nashville, I'm not in New York, I'm not in Dallas, a lot of the big media hubs and entertainment hubs, which that's changing too. Everything's spreading out. But when you're like in a small area, like where I'm at, Central Florida area, you do something, pretty much everybody kind of knows they're connected somehow. It's like the Kevin Bacon game. Someone's connected somehow. So you never ever just light a match and walk away. Because in the end, if you do, you have to go back to that bridge. Either you're going to have to rebuild it, or you're going to just say, hey, I made a mistake and I'm sorry, which is always the right thing to do, especially if you were wrong in this situation. But over the years, that's something I've learned. It's way, way too small. I'm getting distracted right now. Keep looking over to my left. You know why? Because I'm really, really tempted to go play that Arcade Legends game over there. I'm not much of a gamer, but that just keeps calling my name for some reason. Like I must go over there. I must connect with it. ADHD to the fullest. So what I was saying is, I'm also just trying to figure this thing out. Man, this is like day 16 of doing this daily vlog. Not telling a soul where the channel is. Getting some views, which is cool. Just doing this. And with the experiment, see if YouTube connects me to like-minded people. So I say all this because it's just so crucial to never, ever burn those bridges. I think that applies to anything, but especially entertainment and media. And something else that's been really bothering me as late is like, we're in for a rude awakening. It feels like, and I'm not saying this to be negative, because I feel like everybody can do whatever they want to do with their life. That's the beauty of the life we live. But like I've said before, this is all I know. I've always known content creation. Before content creation was even a thing, this is what I was doing. Before social media was even a thing, this is what I was doing. I was creating. I was creating video. I was creating music, and did it very well, to be full time in it. Like I worked odd ends of jobs, like up to 28 years old, when I was pursuing music, I would do music, make some money, and then I'd have to work another job or something. But all the way up from like 28 up, I was pretty much full time in this, and it hasn't been easy. There's been beautiful times of just like prosperity times, and there's been times of drought, and that's just part of the journey, right? There's never We always look to this moment as a creative, like that's going to fix everything, and it might just be for a moment, and you made some good money, and that's it. You got to go on to the next thing. So nothing's guaranteed in this at all, but something that I've seen as of late, especially when the Instagram CEO said this, it's like, and I've talked a little bit about AI. I'm not against AI, but a lot of people are in for a rude awakening on social media, especially these influencers. And I've seen it. I've worked with some influencers that have some reach, and their organic reach and their comments are suffering. They're not getting what they used to, and they're not doing paid ads either. So, but the CEO of Instagram pretty much said, "Hey, AI is going to go full force with social media." So that means these platforms are going to be really pushing it. You can see the tools that they're giving you now to do AI. Like YouTube's a little anti that. They're giving some AI tools, but YouTube seems safe for now. They want human interaction. They want that, which is great. But like Instagram, if you built your platform on Instagram, Facebook, X, you name it, you're in for a rude awakening, because you're going to have these influencers that pop up that are not even real. As it becomes saturated, and your reach is gone. People that have made their money on Instagram are no longer going to make their money on Instagram. It's going to be a bloodbath. And again, and it's, I don't want that for anybody. But I've also seen it too. It's just so hard. I'm 50 something. I help other brands get there, and it's easy for me to put someone on a track to be successful with social media, with entertainment things. It's easy for me to put someone on track. But when it comes to myself, it's very difficult because I don't like doing this. I mean, I like doing vlogs, don't get me wrong, or I like doing talk radio, doing that kind of format, just communicating. But, just like putting yourself out there, like, I put a song out back in October, and it's just been nonstop of just posting songs. And it's like, it's so frustrating because it's not about music anymore. And you have to do all these things to get someone's attention, to even get them to listen to the song. So it's crazy. It's just crazy. I think the whole system's broke. Everybody wants to be monetized. Everybody wants to be a full-time YouTuber. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hear me out. You worked extremely hard. That's what you wanted to do, and you do it. I'm not shutting down dreams, but it just seems like everybody now is a content creator. And it's great for me because people get stuck. They get stuck in their own ways, and that's why I come into play. I get them unstuck and show them things to do to kind of guide them and try something different, and rather than, playing the system of beating your head against the wall. But a lot of the times when I get hired to do something, I notice one thing: clients don't want to put in the work sometimes. They, especially highly creatives, or they over spiritualize things too. It's like I do a lot of faith-based people, and they go, "I'm praying about it, blah 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 blah. I'm doing this. I'm spending time with the Lord," which I'm all for. But then I see their actions, because they're still on social media trying to gauge and trying to grow the brand when they're saying they're pausing for right now, which is just mind blowing to me, because it's crazy how much of an epidemic is social media is for a lot of people. The likes, the clicks, the validation. And when all this stuff goes away, you're going to see a lot of people with a lot of, a lot of big psychology things that they have to do, go see a psychologist or a counselor, because they're going to be so out of whack, because this has become a form of validation for people. And luckily, I think there was a time when I was, believe it or not, I was a big Facebook Live person. I was one of the first people on Facebook Live. There's a dozen of us. I worked for this company called Be Live. We were the first Facebook integrated partner with Facebook Live. And so I saw a lot of things, and I did a lot of these big online marketers and stuff, and I did shows, and I did stuff, and I had, I was getting paid for shows, so I had to reach a number, and I had concurrent viewers. I mean, I had at one time, I think one live stream, I had like 100,000 concurrent viewers when I was doing a program, and people were like, how are you doing this? I said, I don't know. But then you hit that peak and you start looking like, and you die down a little bit and you start going, oh, it's a numbers game. It's like, it was like that in radio too. If you didn't hit your numbers, and the quarters and your ratings were bad, that's a reflection of how you're doing your job, right? It's like that with anything. You get evaluated. But I got obsessed with the clicks. How can I take this to the next level? How can I take this to the next level? And it wasn't happening. It took me in a downward spiral, which gave me severe anxiety because I was getting all of my paychecks from performance. And I became this something that I wasn't. I had to become this personality that, which is a part of me, but it's not all of me. And it was like the person I hated the most of myself. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But I'm just worried for people's and dealing with people that are into this and how obsessive, because it is. I mean, it is. That's all we know to do. It's like, oh, you do music. Got to go here. I got to go to Instagram. You pick your platform. You got to do it. And it has nothing about the end game. You have a business. You got to put, oh, everybody's on social media. So everybody's doing it. You have to do it, right? But there's got to be a better way, right? There has to be a better way to do this thing at the end of the day. Where I'm sitting right now, Blue Jay, would be a killer podcast setup. You put some mics in here, some good aesthetics in here, you know what I'm saying? There's like a guitar behind me and a pinball machine. This place is so cool. I'm getting closer to the video game machine. I'm getting closer. It's kind of like trying to ask a girl out at a bar. You get closer and closer. I just gotta turn it on. Hey, no, stupid. That was so lame. That was like a dad joke. In any event, but I did see something encouraging because something has to shift. I think maybe I talked about it before, but like with silent movies, or even like when silent movies came out, the theater was this is gonna end theater, live performance. And even when the talkies came out, when silent films were no longer, Chaplin freaked out. He stayed with the format that he knew. He didn't think talkies were going to make a change. It took him years to adapt, but he eventually had to adapt because everything shifted. I'm just hoping that at some point these platforms die down a little bit and there's more opportunity for artists to be creative. Content creators win more. I'm all for everybody winning that's doing this, by the way. I saw something that's really promising. I don't know. It was like this podcast clip I saw. Someone was basically saying Netflix is going to change everything. They're going to start, they gave like an example of, hey, man, going to sign artists that have nothing to do with labels, managers, and hey, we're going to give you a $100 million deal for 3 records, but we want you to document everything. We want everything. We want, you're behind the scenes. We want everything that you do on a video. We want it all. Which could be very cool because that's almost like a studio philosophy, right? Because I just think the music industry, the way it is now, it's done. And I'm talking for music, and I think film's that way too. And I think it's going back to the back of the days of like Hollywood studios. When you have like a studio and you have some money, you can offer a whole lot more and put people in contracts and say, hey, look, you're going to do your content here. You can't go over to Paramount. You've got to be over here. And a lot of people are anti that, but I think in the times we're living in, having guaranteed money and being under contract for, a lump sum of like 5-6 years, which is scary too, because say if that goes south and you're dealing with somebody that you don't like in a building, that's a risk you take, and then that's when you get managers involved and agents and all that stuff. But I wish we could get beyond all that, but that's promising, right? I think that's really cool. I think it's a step in the right direction. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think the playing field needs to be opened up, So at the end of the day, that's what I'm hoping for with content creation. So is there hope? Yeah, there is. I try to stay encouraged through all this and see this. But I think community, creatives, content creators, musicians, filmmakers, we're in this together, and we've got to support each other more than ever. And when I started off, like, don't burn bridges. Don't ever burn bridges. Like, even if you were the platform, you don't want to leave on bad terms. You just don't want to do it because more than likely, I guarantee you, you're going to have to face that and come back to that. So if you learned anything today from what I had to say, great. I'm always learning, maneuvering, and this is all based off experience and seeing the way things are just shifting. Because sometimes it's a little discouraging. And talking to people on the phone, having long talks with directors that have been doing it for years, but had a good talk yesterday with a director who does a lot of movies and films, and he's embraced AI. He goes, hey, it saves me a lot of time. I'm not replacing people, but I use it simultaneously with what I'm doing. It's, and that's what you got to do. You just got to embrace things. But, I think the people that don't adapt are going to get left behind. And that's what I'm saying. But this is not going to go anywhere. People crave this, and AI doesn't have a soul at the end of the day. That's why I think this is not going to go anywhere. There might be a time where it's just hot on everything. Everybody's just using it, but it's going to die down. The algorithm's just going to get stale. And the whole thing about being social, think about that. The word social media. It's no longer social. It's just a big advertising thing. And like, look at me. Let me get your attention for 5 seconds to sell my book, or, sell this or sell that, which is it is now. But think about that. A big cluster of garbage. That's where it's going to. And that's what will be the downfall of these platforms, because they don't care. They've all kind of moved on to other things, especially Zuckerberg. He's directly in AI building other technology. He's building AI technology. Like Facebook is a thing in the past. Now Meta, he's given with Instagram, he's given the CEO full reins on that, even though Meta owns it. But if he doesn't shift, like I think the biggest thing for him, the CEO of Instagram, if he said, hey man, we're about people, I think they would survive. But yeah, what he said a few days ago, you got to follow him on Instagram. He talks to the people, and what he said was kind of like, gulp. Wow. Came from his mouth. It wasn't coming from an influencer. It's like, hey, buy my course. It came from his mouth. So that was interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what YouTube does as well. So, in any event, I got to figure out how, but this is a daily vlog. So whatever I'm feeling. I wanted to talk about this. So this is what I'm talking about today. Hey, thanks so much for joining me on this vlog. I appreciate you guys if you watched it all the way through. Always remember, don't be so hard on yourself. Okay? Just don't do it. And always document the journey. See you next time on Creative on the Mend.